like to call to order this meeting for December 6, 2021. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no consent items on the agenda tonight, so the first order of business are the minutes of the November 15th, 2021 regular City Council meeting. Are there any corrections? None being, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve. I got a motion by Councilor Milks. Do I have a second? Second from Councilor Walker. All those in favor? Minutes are approved. 7-0. Now on to communications, presentations, and recognitions. First, turn over to the city manager from communications from Kennebec Behavioral Health.
Thanks, Mayor. I would just say, that was addressed to you as a city council, so I just made sure that was made available to you. It'll be reconsidered during the budget process.
Very good. Next, communication. I included a memo on the Thursday agenda. I just want to make sure you all have it. It's in your packet concerning future land use and strip zoning, both up on the agenda for tonight. In combination with the work that the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee, as well as this council, has taken on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how does that all fit into that general principle and direction the council gave that committee to look at everything through that lens. So that's included for your review. Hopefully you all reviewed it prior. Next, on to presentation, recognizing the services of our outgoing city councilors. I don't even need to read their names. I think I dream about their names over the last 2 years. If I could, I'd like to recognize the 4 outgoing councilors for this term. First, at-large councilor, Councilor Boss. If you could please come up, we got a present for you. Don't worry, you can't eat it. So, Councilor Boss. Ward 1, Councilor Lasagna. You could just stay up here too, Katie. Ward 4. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Ward 2, Councilor McLeod. I was going to do alphabetical order. And then Ward 4, Brian Carrier. For those of you who didn't hear your names, you were reelected. Just a couple minutes here. I just want to thank, for the last 2 years, this city council has done a lot to move Auburn forward. It's been an extremely adventurous 2 years with regards to everything from a pandemic to new high school approvals, all the way and including zoning changes, modifications, business streamlining, review of committees, review of charter, review of our comprehensive plan. Probably the most memorable and eventful 2 years as a city council I think has honestly had in all of Auburn's history in this form of government since 1935. So if you could please join me in giving these 4 councilors a great round of applause. We'll miss them greatly. If we're going to get some pictures here.
Brian.
Thank you. And that's appropriate. Serve cheese on that, maybe some crudité. It's charcuterie, that was it, charcuterie, not crudité. Okay, moving on to council communications about and to the community. Are there any councilors that have any communications outside of reports they'd like to share? Starting out with Councilor Lasagna.
I would just like to thank all of you sitting out there, the community members who've shown up time after time in support of all the hard work that we've done. It has been extremely meaningful to us and extremely educational for the council to hear from you. Thank you.
Any other communication from the council? None being, we'll be moving along to unfinished business. First open session of the night. I'm sorry. First open session of the night. Any member of the public is invited to speak to the council about an issue directly related to city business, which is not on tonight's agenda. If you're here to speak about an agenda item, there will be public comment with each and every agenda item as time goes on. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address as you step up to the podium. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak on general business of the city? None being, we'll close the first open session. We'll move right on into unfinished business. First is ordinance 31-07192021, amending the low-density country residential and rural residential strips abutting the agricultural resource protection zone from the current depth of 450 feet from the center line of the roadway to a depth of 750 feet from the center line of the roadway or the rear property boundary, whichever is less. This is a public hearing and second reading. Do I have a motion? Motion from Councilor McLeod. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Boss. Now I'll open this up to the public for comment. If there's anybody in the public that would like to speak to this, please step up to the podium, state your name, address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Oh, Dr. Shields, please, the podium if you could. That's live. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Thomas Shields. I live in Maple Hill Road, Auburn. I have a number of questions to ask. I don't know if you'd like for me to ask them all or wait till other people have a chance to speak also.
Dr. Shields, just as a reminder, you can ask all the questions you want, but this board doesn't answer those questions during public discussion. I will try my best to take notes on those questions and make sure those questions are answered throughout the debate portion that follows the public conversation.
Yeah,
If you have it printed after you speak, I'd love that one too.
no, well, my handwriting is difficult to read.
You are a doctor.
Okay. Why did the planning board vote no on this particular move?
As you give your questions, I'll write them down, and I'll try our best to make sure they're answered during the council debate portion following this.
Okay, so I don't get any answers tonight?
According to the rules set forth eons ago by the council, it's not an open conversation per se, but it's public comment. So the public can make comment, and then on the specific item at hand.
All right, thank you. Then I would comment that if you expand the lot 450 feet down to from the road and add another 300 feet if your land allows, what's the purpose of that? How many houses you're going to crowd in there? How many septic systems you're going to put in there? How many wells you have to drill in there? You understand that the road I live on, which is one of the ones marked on the map, is one that has no public sewer and no water supply. We have to all supply our own. So I think adding further density to those kinds of places is difficult. I'd like to know how many house lots are on this map that go up Maple Hill Road and Dillingham Hill Road, and as opposed to how many houses are on those lots now.
Dr. Shields, if you could, your 3 minutes has elapsed. I know that it says 0 up there, but it just wasn't ready, but we are keeping track here.
3 minutes are allowed?
3 minutes on public discussion.
Oh.
We talked a little bit beforehand to clarify. If I'll give you an extra, for a couple extra points that you'd like to make, that'd be great. I'll allow that.
Okay, well, I have a host more than 3 minutes worth of questions.
I will recommend you, or kind of have you review the city council packet that was put together on Thursday. The questions you did ask are actually, most of them are answered within that packet. But if we could just wait, we do have to follow the 3-minute guideline. I mean, a little
Fine.
flexibility, but,
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
no, thank you, Dr. Shields. Anybody else like to speak, just please come right up. If it's easier to queue in a little line behind the podium. And again, for those folks that just came in, this is also streaming in the community room across the hall.
Am I recognized?
Yeah, please.
I'm Fred Holler. I live at 352 West Auburn Road. This is the third time that I have been present at a public hearing on this issue. Many citizens have spoken, as I'm speaking now, about the issue. In all 3 of those public hearings, I have heard no one speak in favor of this concept. Because this issue affects the entire city of Auburn. It's not just segments, it's most of the roads. If you look at the map, it's one end of the city to the other. And I regard this as a major change in the way our city will appear in the future, the way it will function, the way it will provide services, and even maybe a threat to our water supply. I also understand that there's a 10-year planning situation that is about to be redone. I mean, the 10 years are up. I don't think that this program complies with the previous 10-year program, or who knows, why not wait and do the future 10-year program? I think this is a major change for our city, and that we should give it a lot more concern. And I think that is why the planning board recommended that the city council ought to refrain from passing this. I don't think that there's been enough consideration by the average citizen to realize what this plan will do. And I think if you would project that map on the wall again, you would see how many acres of land, how much more service may be required, what will happen with traffic, what will happen with law enforcement, and as Dr. Shields alluded, what will happen with all the septic systems, water systems, et cetera. I just think the city council should give a lot more consideration to this plan. There ought to be a lot more publicity about what this plan is for the city at large. There hasn't been a lot of information in the newspapers. There's been a little, but not enough. Thank you very much.
My name is Michael Heskinen. I live at 380 Young's Corner Road, and I want to say that I support the planning board's recommendation that the council should not approve this amendment. Thank you.
Good evening. First, I would like to thank the council for all of the work that you do.
I'm sorry, can you please state your name?
Yeah,
and
my name
address?
is, I was getting to that. My name is Cynthia Alexander, and I'm a resident of 582 West Auburn Road. I'll go back to my first statement. I would like to thank the council for all of the work you do and the time that you put in. I know it's a lot of work, and I do appreciate that. I won't be redundant and repeat the 3 former speakers' comments, but I agree with all of the comments that have been made thus far. It feels like the comprehensive plan, it's focused on growth, but it doesn't really consider all of the residents who are currently in the homes that we're at. I'm all about growth, but I don't think growth is for the expense of the residents. I actually wrote a full letter. You came to the agenda item too early for me to read my full letter, so I'm going to just talk about this agenda item. Now we're being faced with increased taxes because there's a plan to change some of the property from agricultural to residential property. In the beginning, I heard that it was being sold as you can add another property to your house. You can put a road in, build another resident behind your house. I don't know about other residents, I'm going to speak for myself, but I had no intention of ever putting another resident in the back of my property. I bought my home in Auburn. I took a year to purchase the home. I valued privacy. I don't value the road because it's a really busy road, but I live in the backyard in the summer and I do value that. And I wanted the privacy and just a 5 acre, I probably have 3 acres mowed, just to enjoy, my life after a full day's work, and, to be able to have some summer time and quiet. We have, it's hard to not get into the other issue about the horse farm, but that has also impacted our street immensely. But back to this issue, I would like to find out, because I know I'm never going to build behind. I don't want to see neighbors building their houses behind them. And that to me devalues my property. I have been approached by people like, wow, I can't believe you live on West Auburn Avenue. Look what's going on over there. Your property value has really gone down. And I would like to know how to get an exemption should this pass. I hope it doesn't, but I'd like to know how to get an exemption because I will never be building a property and I'll never use that residential piece for anything other than what I'm doing and enjoying my backyard. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sid Hazelton. I'm the Auburn Water District Superintendent. I'm here to speak in opposition to the proposed amendments to the watershed overlay zone that would increase the buffer from 450 feet to 750. Lake Auburn, as many of you know, is the only public water supply for the cities of Auburn and Lewiston. In 1991, we were granted a filtration waiver from the Maine DEP. We are not required to filter our water prior to treatment due to the high quality of the source water. We've been able to maintain our waiver due to our comprehensive watershed protection efforts. This amendment would have the potential to open up more developable land in the Lake Auburn watershed and put our filtration waiver at risk. This year, the city spent nearly $100,000 for a study of the lake. Although there has not yet been a public presentation on the report, I know you've all seen it. I will quote the first recommendation from their report. This comes from the consultant. We recommend, that the City of Auburn not seek to ease the current resource protection zoning or consider rezoning portions of the watershed for increased density. Increased density and new opportunities for residential development are better suited to other areas of Auburn outside of the Lake Auburn watershed, preferably areas already served by sanitary sewer. The future scenario models showed that easing restrictions on further development in the Lake Auburn watershed would set the lake on a path toward deteriorating water quality. The consultant confirmed earlier reports that we had provided that a filtration plant would cost in the $40 million range. Here's another quote from that recommendation. The key takeaway is that decreased intake water quality at a filtration plant taxes the system, raises the volume of the waste stream, and adds significant cost and complexity to the treatment process, meaning that water supply managers cannot forego water quality protection efforts simply because a filtration system is in place. In other words, we simply need to protect our source water. You may recall back in 2019, the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission sent a resolution to the city in the wake of zoning changes that were being presented at that time. In part, it read, agriculture and resource protection district and its associated definitions and standards should not be amended in any manner that would relax development standards for land located within the physical boundaries of the Lake Auburn Overlay District because the existing standards and definitions are required to prevent water pollution associated with increased development and to prevent irreparable harm to the purity of the public water supply, which would threaten the existing filtration waiver.
Mr. Hazelton, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes is up. I need to clarify. Is this official correspondence directly from the Board of Trustees for the Auburn Water District and Lake Auburn Watershed Protection Commission?
This is the resolution from the
No,
commission.
no, your entire statement? Are you representing the Auburn Water District or Lake Auburn Water Protection Commission? Or are
Yes.
you're
Both. I'm the superintendent of the
I'm sorry, was
Water
it,
District.
but in communication, was this communication brought forth before both respective bodies and then approved in the form of a resolution or an order? I'm just looking for clarification.
I've had discussions with both boards.
So both boards, have they voted on this communication and this stance on this zoning change? Have they voted on this in the affirmative?
There's
So
not-
you can bring this forward?
There's not been an official
Thank you
vote
very much,
within these
Mr.
boards.
Mr. Hazelton. What's your address? I want to just make sure on the record that you're not.
121 Conan Ave,
So
Auburn, Maine.
you're speaking as a resident of Auburn versus an official capacity with regards to communication from duly elected or appointed boards. Thank you.
That's,
Thank you, Mr. Hazelton. We're a city and a state and a country of laws. We just have to follow them.
given this information, I would
Mr.
ask.
Hazelton?
I would ask the council,
Mr. Hazelton, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes is up. If you'd like to have communication and put this on a future agenda item, please come. You can't do that, man. Next,
not what you wanted to hear, I guess.
rules are rules.
I would just like to, Susan Brown.
Ma'am, please, you're out of order. You can get in line and please speak.
I don't care whether I'm out of order, I'm just saying, I am walking out and urge
Very
other
good.
people to walk out because this meeting is not being conducted in a fair manner. I am embarrassed for the city.
You're out of order, ma'am. And if anybody wants to look at it, it's just Robert's rules. Okay, and we have rules within our charter governing meetings. Please, ma'am, I'm sorry about that.
My name is Susan Brown. I live at 152 Dillingham Hill Road. And I am beyond grateful that Sid Hazelton just spoke. And I've been wondering where he's been. Where has he been over all these months that you guys have been working on this process when it so involves Lake Auburn? I've been looking for him to have something featured in the newspaper or have heard you speak in these meetings on the aspect coming from the water department. It's one of our best, most vital pieces of land, structure in our city. More than any building, more than anything, is Lake Auburn. And to have these buildings and new developments being built is just awful. And it did seem incredibly rude just now how you spoke to him. Thank you.
My name is Scott Alexander. I live on 582 West Auburn Road, and I agree with just about everything that's been said so far. My wife has already spoken, but I want to agree with the doctor over here on the septic situation. And this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but I want to further explain what our situation is for me personally. My land is not suitable for a leach field. So my leach field is actually on somebody else's land because it's so wet. So what I'm hearing is you're expanding my land to be a buildable lot, but it wasn't buildable to begin with, other than I have an easement to put a leach field on someone else's property. So in essence, what you're telling me is my taxes are going to go up, and there's no value for me personally to doing this. This is a little bit in the weeds, but it's very frustrating, and it almost seems like a scam that the town is trying to pull. And I agree with all the rest of it as far as that property behind my home is beautiful. It's the first time we love Auburn. We came here from the Bangor area, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And when I first went behind my lot, I felt like I was in a national park. And what we're talking about here, it seems like we're willy-nilly gonna plop houses behind houses in a kind of a weird sort of way, and septic systems that may or may not be good for the watershed. So I'm very concerned. I'm very frustrated. I love this town. I love all the work you guys are doing. And my wife and I would love to stay here for the rest of our lives. But that is a very special area. And I think a lot of thought should be given about how it's developed. I mean, and if we're going to put, a bunch of houses back there, let's, maybe, can we bring water and sewer so it's not, infesting the whole area, which eventually ends up in our water supply. They just put a horse farm 2 houses over from us. And it just seems like it's a really willy-nilly plan. I'm glad that the planning board has said, no, we don't want to do this right now. Because it seems like, and I'm all for growth. I think growth is great. I think, I think the overall vision of growing Auburn would benefit everyone because, it could potentially lower taxes. But in my case, my taxes will go up for no apparent reason. So that's all I have.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak during this?
Yeah, Mike Parent, 275 Dillingham Hill Road. I think this strip zoning was put on in a real unlikely fashion. It's discriminating to the people who want to live in low residential areas. We chose that area. If we wanted to be in the city of Auburn, we would be in the city. Now, my particular situation at 275, on the right of me is a house. My property goes behind that house. They have 300 feet. Behind their house is my leach field. There's no way you're going to build a house out there. First, there's no right of way. To the left of my house is water protected for the city of Auburn. It goes for Lake Auburn Preservation. Beyond that is all ledge. Now, the only other place I could build out there between myself and the power lines is right out my back doors. I don't want to look out my sliding glass doors and see another house. I chose this property. I bought it. I want to live there. I want to enjoy it. I think the city is turning around and discriminating against everybody that's out in that area because we're going to have the brunt of the taxes where the rest of it isn't. I know the city needs to grow. It needs tax revenue to continue to grow, but we got to look at all the avenues, not just low residential. Thank you.
If there's no one else that wants to speak, I'll close. We have one more person? 2? Yeah, please, queue in line, or else I'll move this along if I don't see anyone.
Kathy Shaw, 1200 Soapers Mill Road, Valley View Farm, Auburn, Maine. And I think there are a lot of people that want to speak up, but a lot of people are frustrated because they don't think that folks are listening. So I'm going to be as brief as I possibly can. I've done a lot of talking with our longtime residents in the city, and one in particular, I asked, when you first moved here, how many acres were put in protection in this agricultural resource protection zone? And they told me at the time, 35,000 acres. Today we have 18,000. That's less than half. And now this strip zoning is talking about removing another 1,000 acres. The bottom line is this is all about value. And what our city values, I think, is different than what our residents value. And without a doubt, people do value their land for privacy. Maybe some want to build a house, but the bottom line is value. In conversations that I've had in the past 2 weeks with various city managers and town managers, they're all saying the same thing. Development is encroaching, and they're taking the land that's available for houses. They don't care about natural resources. They don't care about farms. They want houses, plain and simple. And honestly, I think this is the same thing. I've not heard one word about preserving from the council our natural resources. You say you want farms, but there's no meat in the game.
I think a lot of these folks here have every right to be frustrated because they're seeing land taken from them with no choice except to raise the taxes. Thank you.
My name's Bill Sylvester. I live at 1128 South River Road in Auburn, Maine. I'm in the rural residential area. I've got some land in the ag zone too. I was on the strategic planning for the comprehensive plan. We didn't talk about this subject at all. I really think it should be in that comprehensive plan and talked about by go through that process. I am on the ag committee too. We wrote a letter summarizing some of the things that we thought were important about that. We certainly didn't recommend a zoning change. We've already had it, tried it once, and it went back to 450. We're in a pandemic economy. We've got a housing shortage before this pandemic, and we'll have one after. But right now is a poor time to be making decisions about zoning in any town or city, anywhere, really. I think any compelling reasons why somebody needs a house beyond the 450 zone should be addressed by some type of special variance and wait on the idea of changing the zone. That's all I've got.
Hi, my name's Dan Herrick, 470 Hatch Road, and I also own other properties, and I manage over 200 acres of farm. I'm going to go about this in a little different way than what's been happening here. I'm frustrated, as well as everyone in this room is, that have come up and spoke tonight, that it's the squeeze. You're squeezing out the agricultural resource protection areas. The biggest thing this year for me, phone call after phone call after phone call with people wanting permission to use the property to hunt, snowmobile, whatever. It's unbelievable. I have people come to me and just want to walk the fields. Person had to put their dog down. Wife, husband, and 2 kids said, "Can we just go up there and walk?" I said, "Go for it." They thank me. They've been back 2 or 3 more times. It's the beauty of the open space that people enjoy. I enjoy farming. As you know, my grandson enjoys farming. Everybody's still looking for more farmland. We can't get enough of it. Your bigger farmers are looking for farmland. We can't get enough of it, but we feel the squeeze. We feel the squeeze hard. State of Maine this year passed new laws for bow hunting. They expanded the distance behind residential areas unless you own the property to discharge archery. Has anybody thought of that? That if we keep doing what we're doing today, we're going to be back here on the no discharge firearm zoning areas. Already, we're squeezed out. People like recreation. You can have Mount Appetite Park. People bike, they walk, they ski, they do whatever, and that's fine. But that pays us back no revenue. Us farmers that keep this land open, we let people bike, we let people snowmobile. You can't do that across the pot road. We let people hunt. We give them the recreational ability to keep our land open. And we pay back taxes, believe it or not, to keep this open and keep it safe. I'm frustrated because I feel that we're being squeezed out. And I think it's awful sad. And as far as tax revenue, I know all you've been in here at least 2 to 4 years. The last 4 years, our taxes have increased every year. How much housing has been invested in with this city in the last 4 years? In 2018, our mill rate was $23.68, and our homestead exemption was $20,000. Our taxes increased. In 2019, our taxes went to $23.75. We were still at $20,000 homestead exemption. In 2020, homestead exemption went up because of the pandemic to $25,000. Our mill rate stayed the same. Out-of-pocket expenses were also the same, so taxes went up. In 2021, our mill rate went from $23.75 to $23.82. It don't seem like a lot, but when you have a $5,000 and $6,000 and $7,000 tax bill every year, it makes a difference. Homestead exemption went back down to $23,250. Look up the numbers. Not only just your tax bill, call the city. That's what I did. I got all my numbers. But I'm just saying, no matter what we do,
Thank you, Mr. Herrick.
our taxes have increased every year.
Thank you. We're at 4 minutes.
Hello, my name is Steve Damian, 703 South Witham Road. I think that the planning board did a well job to recommend not passing this at this time, and I also support all the people that have come here to speak against it. I have all the same feelings. I don't want to do the same thing over and over, but I want you to know that I support not doing this project. Thank you.
Michael Morrissey, 825 Perkins Ridge Road. I just want to say, I agree with everybody here. I don't agree with this proposal going forward. Where it's proposed in the watershed is ridiculous. You're going to poison the water, basically. And that's just the end result will be, and we'll be stuck with a $40,000 water treatment plant. I'll be honest, I've been at every single planning board meeting around this thing. I have heard maybe 2 people come forward with this. I haven't heard a single resident come forward with this. I hope that informs your decision as you place your vote. Thank you very much.
Carl Skilling, 1425 Riverside Drive. I actually own another property, 51 Sherman Ave. I actually bought Sherman Ave at first because it's the first place I could afford. After a few years, I was able to actually afford to buy a bigger piece of property in the ag zone. Like Mr. Herrick, people use my land as well to recreate on my land. There's a farmer that we allow to farm about 30 acres of field at no charge. He farms it and takes care of the land. We snowmobile on it, we walk on it, we get neighbors that walk on our property, snowmobile on our property. I didn't buy that property to have a bunch of houses, excuse me, to have a bunch of houses put up around me. So I do not support changing it. I'd like to see it stay where it is. Thank you.
Good evening. Jeff Nome, 968 Perkins Ridge Road. I'm at 750 feet. I've been there since 1986. But I do not support this new proposal. We have been to 3 meetings so far. I've listened to the planning group talk about this issue. I've listened to all these people tell the planning group why we should not make this proposal pass. And here we are again, and each one of these people are standing up here and telling you why. We have a planning board. Listen to your planning board. That's why we have it. If we're not going to listen to our planning board, I see no reason to have it. So please, I do not want this proposal to pass. Thank you.
That's it for public comment. I'll now close public comment, bring it back to the council. Now, I did tell Dr. Shields earlier that I would try to answer a lot of the questions that came forward, and I'm going to briefly try to do that without any bias whatsoever, but present some of the facts that are in the packet that's online. The first thing that came up, the majority of speakers, and thank you very much for speaking, was I don't want houses in my backyard. just to clarify, changing of zoning does not place houses in your backyard. The only person who can place something in your backyard is you. So I just want to make sure that's very clear. And as stated by Mr. Nome, you know, he built his house in 1986, I believe, when it was 750 feet. It was then moved afterwards to the current 400 feet. Mr. Nome couldn't build his home in wherever he wanted on his land today with the current zoning. The zoning was at 750 feet. This is a recommendation to move the zoning back to what it was before it was decreased to allow, and this goes to intent, better site situation for residents on a home, on their lot. As far as a lot of the other questions and the conversation about the planning board, I just want to reiterate the memorandum that I put in under communications. All these are very, very valid and relative questions and concerns. The planning board's chartered job is to provide a recommendation that has to be substantiated with a finding of fact or rationale and reasons why their current recommendation is what it is. We did not receive that. So your questions are valid. We did not receive answers, findings of fact with regards to sewer, water, runoff, etc., what this would do, traffic, even though we do know that staff talked about all this to planning board, we need to have their findings of fact. We did not do that. So hence we don't have those answers to your specific questions. I'll open this up to the City Council for debate. Anybody like to speak on this? Councilor Zani.
Thank you very much for all of your comments. I will mention that we in the past have voted on things the planning board has sent up to us without an explanation. This will not be the first time that we've done this. The responsibility...
I'm sorry, Councilor Zania. I've looked at over the past 4 years, and we've always had a finding of fact or a reason behind a recommendation from planning board. If you could please give that to me and correct me, I would be happy to have that in the record.
It is also, there's no obligation to send this back to the planning board. It's the responsibility of the council to vote on this. And I think, Mr. Mayor, you've been somebody who has said, it's our responsibility to do our job. It is our job to vote on this. I also want to apologize to Mr. Hazelton and Ms. Lounsbury. I think that this is an open forum. We need to hear what people have to say. We need to give them time. We can stick to the 3 or 4 minutes that happens, but it was really important information that we were getting. The other thing is the whole idea of hunting, recreation, access to farmland that we've heard about. One of the major things this city pushes towards and talks about is recreation and sports tourism. This is something that would reduce the access for recreation and sports tourism on this. I think that the Lake Auburn study, and I hope that every one of you has read on this council has read the Lake Auburn study, and to me that gives us reason enough. Very well thought out, researched reason, and I will not be voting to move this forward.
Any other comments from the council? Councilor Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pretty much from day one, I've said that I do not support strip zoning, and I'm going through that tonight. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
Mr. Mayor, or City Council, I want to move to indefinitely postpone this, which means it would kill it outright. After hearing all these people talk, I'm voting with them.
I have a motion on the floor to table to a date uncertain.
Indefinitely postpone kills it.
Indefinitely postpone. It does kill it to the end of the next council, or unless something substantially changed. So I have a motion to indefinitely postpone this motion. Do I have a second?
Second. Can I have a point of order?
Please.
Can that be explained further on the ramifications of doing that?
Yes.
And Sue, or?
And Sue, please jump in here too if I get this wrong, but looking at Robert's rules right now. A motion to permanently?
Indefinitely postpone.
Indefinitely postpone will apply to having, it's the same as tabling to a date uncertain. It can only last until the end of the session of the council or until something substantially different is brought forth in a different order.
To
Correct.
postpone indefinitely actually kills the motion. As far as when it could be brought up again, I think it would have to have a very substantial change in order for it to come back.
Substantial change. For example, let's say the strip zones, just for, a point of clarification, let's say a new order came forth expanding the strip zones to the end of the property line versus the 750 feet. That would be a substantial change. That would change the entire order and fence. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second for Councilor Boss. All those in favor?
Mr. Mayor, roll call.
Sue?
Counselor Walker.
No.
Counselor Boss.
Yes.
Counselor Gary.
Yes.
Counselor Lasagna.
Yes.
Counselor McLeod.
Hold on. Yes.
Counselor Mills.
No.
Counselor Carrier.
No.
The order is made a motion to indefinitely postpone. Passed by a vote of 4-3. Okay, moving on the agenda. We'll give a second for people to get up.
I'd like to quickly thank everybody for coming, and I have to say I feel choked up by your presence and your words tonight. This is democracy in action, and I thank you for participating. And please continue to participate past tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have ordinance 38-111522021, amending Auburn's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Section 2-25 salaries. This is second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion from Councilor Boss, second from Councilor McLeod. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Open this up to the public for comment. Anybody in the public like to comment about this tonight? None being, I'll bring this back to the council. Council, do I have Councilor Carrier?
I'd like to make a motion to amend that, to change it effective 1/1/22.
Point of order.
I'm sorry.
Point of order. What was the date again?
1/1/22.
1/1/22 instead of 12/18/23?
So make a motion to have this effective 12/20/21.
Or have it effective 1/1/22.
1/1/22. I have a motion on the floor to make this ordinance 3-8-11150-52021 effective 1/1/2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second for Councilor Lasagna? Okay. Everybody's talking at the same time. I got some background. My hearing's not great. I got a second by Councilor Lasagna and a motion by Councilor Carrier. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment to the motion, please raise your hand. 2, 3. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3. Abstain? Mayor casts a vote in the affirmative. Passes 4-3. 4-2-1, excuse me.
So point of order, is that not in direct violation of the ordinance? The date?
Mr. Manager?
So we have sought legal guidance on this from both our city legal and as well as Maine Municipal Association. Maine Municipal Association and our legal counsel referenced if the charter had a report that gave better clarification, then you could go with what that clarification was within the report. It does not exist. It does state regarding election in there, in the language. So that's why the legal recommendation was that you would wait until after that election period before it was adopted. And then it could be challenged.
And the second point of order, so just out of curiosity, wouldn't the mayor need to abstain since he would be the recipient of that?
So we had asked legal, not regarding the mayor, it was regarding a previous city council, one of the city councilors, and that is not a reason to abstain.
Cool.
Trust me, I was uncomfortable with it as well.
Oh, just checking.
No. The motion to amend for the date passes. I'll now open up debate on the motion itself as amended. Councilor, anybody? Councilor Zani?
Yeah, I'd like to hear the reason for keeping the 2023 date, just out of curiosity, because it seems to me that we should move forward with payment for these, the people who are coming in right away.
I think it just passed, didn't it?
Well,
No,
the
it
motion
doesn't.
to amend.
Motion to amend it.
Right.
Motion to
So it's been
amend,
amended to 22.
January 1,
January 1 of 22.
2022, which would be,
Next one, so that would be
Yeah.
in effect.
Correct. I'm wondering why people had wanted to keep it at 2023, just out of curiosity.
I talked to some folks about it on the council too, and I looked at it. It's really interpretation. I honestly don't know why, other than individuals' interpretation is where they stand.
Okay.
I think that we can never plan for the eventuality of the mayor. We're talking about the mayor, but I think this debate also carries forward in the subsequent motions that are to follow. You don't know if the mayor is going to be here in January or February or March. Okay, something could happen, and the position is a position. Same thing with counselors. So I think it's important to make sure that everything's done. And if we looked at, what concerns me is you look at the rate of inflation, this pay has been the same for all positions since 1990. And if you really factored in inflation since 1990, it's less than 35% of what the desired amount was in 1990, the 4,000 for mayor or the 18 for the council. So that's diminished. We all know that we've seen initial inflationary numbers so far in this year, or at the end of this year, and they're pretty high. So pushing it off might actually present more of an issue future on, because it's not a raise, it's just a normalization of pay to what the intent was in 1990.
And we had discussed this before, and my reasoning for changing this is I could see the ruling, we were changing our own pay.
Correct.
I'm not going to be sitting on the council next year. We have a couple other folks who want to sit on the council. Technically, we're not changing our pay, we're just changing the pay of the council and the mayor and the school board and things. And I don't think that there's a reason for us to change that now. I think that we should just go ahead and get it done and have it be set up so that the new council and the folks come in, that they get it immediately, instead of having to put this off another 2 years.
Is there any other questions? Any other comments on this? None? As for a vote, this will be a roll call vote.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Boss?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
No.
Counselor Lasagna?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
No.
Counselor Milks?
No.
Counselor Carrier?
Yes.
Order passes by a vote of 4-3. Next is ordinance 39-11152021, amending Auburn's Code of Ordinance, Chapter 2, Section 2-382, salaries of school committee members. This is the second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilor Carrier, second from Councilor Walker. Open this up to the public for comment. Anybody in the public like to speak tonight on this? None being, I'll bring it back to the council. Council, is there anything additional to add?
So would this begin on 1/1/22?
Not unless someone amends the motion. It is a separate issue.
Clarification before someone makes an amendment.
Let's start to say, I'd like,
I'm sorry, Councilor Carrier.
Just for clarification, because I think I know where you're going with this. So if you're going to make the amendment to go for 1/1/22, can you also make the amendment for this order that it would also be for the full amount, not the staggered amount, if that's what your intent is?
okay. Then I'd like to make a motion to amend.
We got a motion to amend to...
Amend the section to have the pay start off immediately, instead of 12/18/23, to have it start 1/1/22.
For the full amount?
For the full amount.
For the full amount. For the full amount.
I have a motion on the floor to have the start date as 12/1/2022 for the full amount versus the prorated amount.
1/1/2022?
I'm sorry, there's way too many anagrams here. 1/1/22. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second for Councilor Boss. Okay, I'll open this up. All those in favor of the motion to amend? 5 opposed? Passes 5-2. The order is now amended. Open this up to a debate for the amended order. Councilor Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our last meeting, when we discussed changing or salaries and whatnot, it had been brought up, especially, with the school, since we're talking school, that it was preferred, since they hadn't planned for this in their budget, that it would be slid in, eased in phases, not actually the full amount at present.
You're talking about the school committee?
Yes.
Okay, we're on the city council at this point.
No, we're on.
School.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. No, you're correct. I apologize.
So that is why I cannot support this motion.
Mr. Manager, didn't you have conversation with school committee on this, or the superintendent?
I spoke with the superintendent. The conversation was related to what was originally thought would be staggering the amounts in. I think for the school committee, just like the city, we'll need to account for that within our budget, make those adjustments.
Is there any other comment? I'm wondering, I'm just thinking out loud here. Counselor Carrier, the school, on the school committee as well?
Having said on that, it was brought up at the meeting, and it was brought, as the city manager said, it was brought up to her. And the school has flexibility in their budget that they could do this.
So we'll not put them in budgetary
No.
risk, harm? Okay, that's good. Thank you for that clarification. Any other comments? Again, we're talking about the school committee compensation, which would raise to $4,000 starting 1/1/2022. On being, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote at this time.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Boss?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
No.
Counselor Lasagna?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Carrier?
Yes.
Order passes by a vote of 6-1. Next is ordinance 40-111-52021, amending Auburn's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Division 4, Planning Board, Section 2-466, by adding Section F, compensation of planning board members. This is second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor McLeod, I got a second by Councilor Boss. Open this up to the public for comment. Anybody in the public like to comment upon this? I'll bring this back to the council. Just a refresher, planning board does not have salary at this point, or compensation, I should say. So this is an addition on, hence section F for compensation. Councilor.
Motion to amend so that it takes effect 1/1/22
With full pay.
for full pay.
Well, I guess it.
Well, it'd have to be full
That one already
pay.
does, though.
No, it doesn't. Full pay. Full pay.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion for Councilor Carey. I got a second for Councilor Boss for full pay, and it is effective immediately, or excuse me, next term. All those in motion of the, excuse me, all those in favor of the motion to amend, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries 6-1. We have an amended ordinance on the table. Anybody like to speak on this? This is planning board salary.
Mr. Mayor, what's the total amount now?
That would go to, hold on, 1,200? The full amount?
Is it $100 a month?
One second.
1,200.
1,200.
Thank you.
Annually, I'm sorry, annually.
Thank you.
Okay? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Boss?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
No.
Counselor Lasagna?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Carrier?
Yes.
Passes by about a 6-1. Next is ordinance 41-111-52021, amending Auburn's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, excuse me, Division 2, by adding Section 2-441, compensation of the Regulatory Advisory Board. This is a second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Councilor Boss, second from Councilor McLeod. Open this up to the public for comment. Is there any comment? None being, bring it back to the council. Council? This is again something that doesn't exist.
Don't need.
No amendment needed. It's something that doesn't exist. As I've stated, this will be added. Is there any other comment?
Can you, the amounts again, Mr. Mayor? Thank you.
Annually, that is 600, hold on. $600. It's payable quarterly.
Thank you.
Okay. Ask for a roll call vote at this time.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Boss?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
No.
Counselor Lasagna?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Carrier?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 6-1. Next is ordinance 42-111-52021, amending Auburn's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Section 2-25, City Council, effective 12/18/2023. This is a second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Councilor Boss, second for Councilor McLeod. Open this up to the public for comment. Anybody would like to comment? None being, open this up to debate.
Make a motion that we amend to 1/1/22.
1122 for the full amount.
It's already in there.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor to amend this to take effect 1/1/2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor McLeod. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Passes 4-3. Now I have an amended order on the floor. Open this up for debate. Anybody like to speak on this? It's consistent with the other previous votes that you've made.
And the amount?
Excuse me, $4,000. No other comment?
Mr. Mayor, excuse me. I cannot in good conscience vote for this. I was going to vote for it for the future council after the next one coming in, but I sure as heck can't vote for me to get a $4,000 increase from $1,800. So I cannot support this.
Very good. And just to clarify, current city council compensation annually is $1,800 a year, and that's what it was in 1990. This will bring this up to $4,000 annually.
But respectfully, Mr. Mayor, I didn't run for the money.
No.
None of us did.
You said earlier that it was
Right.
a $4,000 raise. I just
Well,
want to
no,
make sure
$4
that
salary.
the delta is $2,200.
Right.
Okay. The difference.
Most counselors run for office, they don't even know what they get. They do it because they want to do what's good for Auburn and for its residents. If I had known that we were going to get a raise for next term of $4,000, I sure as heck wouldn't have run, because I'm not in for it for the money. And this vote sounds like it is, and I'm not. And I will not support this.
Very good. Councilor Zania.
Thank you, Councilor Gary. I'll say once again that there was actually recently a letter to the editor saying we need younger people, new blood in these positions. And I think having additional funds will possibly allow people to do that. I think there are things like childcare, parent care, things that will make people think twice and say, I am capable of doing this. Those of us who don't have these concerns, we did not run it for this for the money, but it may help new blood come to the council. Thank you.
Is there any other comments on this? Debate? Bing?
One more point, please. The thing is, none of us that are coming into play, we're already been elected, so money issues and concern is not an issue. Leaving the date at 2023, meaning the people that will run for office then, they will know that they will get the salary increase, not now. So I can't support it, and I don't see how you guys can neither.
Councilor Boss.
I just have a functional question. So this is structured as a payment of salary. Is there any way that it can be structured as an honorarium or a stipend that can be accepted, where there's a maximum that's allowed, but that each individual counselor has the opportunity to accept or reject any amount of funds?
So Jill, I believe we've had somebody just inquire coming on, but has HR talked to your office yet regarding that?
No.
So we are looking into it for a council that requested.
Is a counselor able to reject a portion of their, and say, I'd rather not take that?
What happens if you don't cash a check in 90 days?
Well, I'm asking if there's, someone has a personal reason, a personal circumstance that perhaps it's not in their best interest, would they have that opportunity?
I don't know why.
Technically, no, you don't. I've already checked with Social Security and my rent. Whatever the salary is, that's what they use for your income for any program that you're on.
Okay. And so is there any other debate? I mean, if this needs to go into executive session, that's always an option to talk about individuals.
I'll just get back to the reason, and again, as Holly has mentioned, and as I know Councilman Boss has mentioned in the past, for the people that think that this is a one night every 2 weeks, it's not. For anybody out there that's running, and for people that I know that are coming on, this is not one night every 2 weeks. The council meets during budgetary times. We meet quite often. Then you have your specific boards that you sit on. You meet on those nights. So getting back to what Councilor Lasagna said, this does give us an incentive, for the coming in council, an incentive to be able to do this and be able to take care of some needs that they may have. and bring it back into some kind of parity with what it should be.
Is there any other comment on this debate? I mean, it's important, I think, just to reiterate what the city manager said too about diversity, equity, inclusion, and opening this up to more people. This is, and Councilor Carrier said it too, none of these jobs from council to mayor to planning board should, or is in actuality designed to be a couple hours a month. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and hats off to all the councilors who have done this in the past and are going to be doing this in the future. If there's no other comment, I'd like to bring this up to a roll call vote. Sue?
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Boss?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
No.
Counselor Lasagna?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
No.
Counselor Milks?
No.
Counselor Carrier?
Yes.
Order passes 4-3. We're going to be moving on. Oh, excuse me, no. Motion, excuse me, moving on to new business at this point.
No.
No,
So
we
you
have
have
two
other
others.
orders. Sue, how would you like them to proceed to end those other orders that we do not?
They could either postpone indefinitely, or if someone makes a motion, there's no second, it dies. Either would be.
Someone makes a motion and no second. if possible.
Well,
You have 3 more orders
Yeah.
that are no longer needed.
Okay.
Based off from the votes that took place with the amendments.
I'd like to make a motion on the first one.
Go.
Lots of crickets.
What's your motion? Oh, do we have, I'm sorry. do we
Read
have
the
a
item number.
item number?
Nobody will say.
Nobody will second, okay. And do I have, we haven't done this in 4 years. This is like, wait, I gotta pull out my book. Okay, so I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? None being, motion fails. Next, we have orders 4311520221.
Motion accepted as is.
Do I have a second? None being, the motion dies. Next, order 44-111520221. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? None being, the motion dies. Sue, good? Correct? Okay. That's new to me. Moving on to new business. First, new business, order 45-12062021, amending Auburn's Code of Ordinance, Chapter 20, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 3, Fire Code, Section 20-55, Appeals. This is a public hearing in the first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Councilor McLeod, second from Councilor Carrier. Open this up to the public for comment. Anybody from the public like to comment? None being, I'll bring this back to the council. Council, discussion? No? We're going to move forward for a roll call vote.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Boss?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
Yes.
Counselor Lasagna?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Carrier?
Yes.
Order passes by a vote of 7-0. Next is ordinance 46-12062021, amending Auburn's Code of Ordinances by adding section 20-84, permits, requirements. This is a public hearing in the first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Councilor Boss, second from Councilor Carrier. Open this up to the public. Anybody like to speak on this issue? None being, I'll bring it back to the council. Council debate? Discussion? Ask for a roll call vote.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Boss?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
Yes.
Counselor Lasagna?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Carrier?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 7-0. Next is ordinance 47-12062021, amending Auburn's Code of Ordinances, section 20-32, fees for service. This is a public hearing in the first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Councilor Boss, second from Councilor Carrier. I'm going to open this up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak? Seeing none, bring it back to the council. Council, any debate, discussion, comment? None being? Madam Clerk?
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Boss?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
Yes.
Counselor Lasagna?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Carrier?
Yes.
Order passes 7-0. Next is order 48-12062021, amending Auburn's Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, fees, fire prevention and protection. This is a public hearing and first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Councilor Boss, second Councilor Carrier. Anybody in the public like to speak, comment on this public hearing? None being. Bring it back to the council. Council debate, conversation, discussion? None being. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Boss?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
Yes.
Counselor Lasagna?
Yes.
Counselor McLeod?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
Counselor Carrier?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Next, amending this, next is Order 131-1206-2021, amending the City of Auburn Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 2, adopting a revised future land use plan. This is a public hearing and a vote. Do I have a motion?
Motion to move.
Second.
Motion from Councilor Walker, second from Councilor Boss. Open this up to the public. Anybody in the public like to speak? None being, I'll bring this back to the council. Council, debate, discussion?
Mr. Mayor, point of information.
Continue.
Okay, when it talks about a revised future land use plan, has it been revised since the council discussed this? And since we got the water study back and stuff like that?
I'm going to ask Mr. Cousins to come up to the podium too. He has a better answer of that. It has been amended since, primarily by the planning board to take things into consideration. But if you could just give us an update of those amendments.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Gary. As the mayor mentioned, the planning board did review this. The planning board has recommended that within the Lake Auburn watershed, the residential strips that are currently 1 acre rural residential zones. Planning board had some concerns that the Comprehensive Plan Committee did not have the Lake Auburn watershed study available when they made their recommendations. And as a way to sort of delay any changes that would increase any density in the watershed until that's given consideration, they've suggested that we amend any areas that were showed as rural residential strips, that they be shown as rural development district in the future land use plan. What that does is it takes the areas that are currently 250 feet of frontage and 1 acre minimum lot sizes, and it proposes that they be shown on the future land use plan as a 3 acre minimum lot size, so triple the current minimum lot size. The frontage does get reduced slightly to 200 feet, but none of those actual zoning changes happen until the planning board and council get a chance to look at the Lake Auburn watershed study and then decide if they want to reduce the lot size from the 3 acres shown on the future land use plan to something different. So they were concerned about that, and they want to make sure that that's considered before there are any lot size changes in the watershed. The only other change is a relatively small change on Washington Street, near where north and southbound Washington Street come together on the northern end before you come into the city. There's a parcel that is currently shown as industrial. The future land use plan showed it as remaining industrial. To the west of it is the backside of a neighborhood off of Minot Avenue that's residential. To the east of it is shown as general business currently. And the future land use plan recommends that we start moving towards a mixed-use gateway form-based code district in that corridor. This was a small outlier that stayed as industrial, and we're recommending that that be considered to be included in the mixed-use form-based code district to not allow for all the industrial uses that are currently allowed and allow for the implementation of the larger vision, the transportation vision along that corridor, where you could do multifamily or mixed-use development instead of rail-based industrial. So those are the two significant changes from the draft that came before the council prior to the planning board hearing.
In layman's term, I think what we've done is in the amended FLU with regards to Lake Auburn has made it more restrictive to build according to this adopted chapter, which gives us time to really analyze the Lake Auburn water study and look at Lake Auburn watershed in a more comprehensive way as a standalone. So that's the genesis there. Obviously, we're not making any non-conforming lots by this, as Eric said. This is not an ordinance, and that's something we obviously want to try to avoid, but that's the change. And I think, Councilor McLeod, the second change on Washington Avenue just blends really, really nice, Councilor Boss, with what we talked about with gateways and adding more there, infill, in to out. Is there any other questions on the future land use as presented? No? Debate? Discussion? None being. I am going to ask for a vote of, show of hands. All those in favor of adopting Chapter 2 in the comprehensive plan, please raise your hand. All those opposed? 1. Passes by a vote of 6-1. Before I close this off, I will say that this is probably one of the most significant changes that's been done in the state, if not the country, with regards to land use. Looking at what the recommendations were coming out of the state's legislative committee on housing, we're already done. I mean, we are really that far ahead of everybody else. So everybody who is involved in this council should be very, very happy with the progress on that. Quite forward thinking. Next, Order 132-1206-2021, authorizing the allocation of ARPA funds for the procurement of a computerized maintenance management system. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Motion by Councilor McLeod, second by Councilor Carrier. I'm going to open this up to the public for comment. Anybody public comment? This is the dark fiber system in a very technical fashion. Any other debate? Bring it back to the council. Debate on that? No? We have the order here, including cost.
Point of order, this isn't dark fiber.
How much is this?
I thought this was a computer. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a computerized maintenance management system. I'm sorry. I apologize. CMMS. Is there any other debate? Comment? No? Okay. We're going to ask for a vote by a show of hands.
How much was this?
This was management software. Hold on. Let me bring it up. $180,000.
Thank you.
Which aligns the strategic plan with point number 5, broadband, other projects, infrastructure. Okay. All those in favor?
This was the dark fiber.
No, it wasn't. It was different. Management. All those in favor again. Show of hands. I'm sorry. Opposed? None being. Passes 7-0. Next is Order 133-1206-2021, authorizing the allocation of ARPA funds for the Museum LA expansion project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Councilor Carrier, second for Councilor McLeod. I'd like to open this up for public comment. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak? If so, please step up to the podium. None being, I'll bring it back to the council. Council, just so you recognize before we open this up for debate, the order reads slightly different so that it really makes this proportional. So basically our contribution is 66% of the contribution of the city of Lewiston, not to exceed 1.5 million. That way the intent for Museum LA, and which was told to us, is actually can be enforced based upon Lewiston's further action, which they will be taking relatively quickly, as is on their agendas for tomorrow night in a workshop, as well as an order for them to amend how they spend ARPA money for nonprofits, so opening the pathway for this to come in a future agenda item. So we did check through that, and you can see the revised language there. Again, it's to prevent us from allocating a set period of set amount of money and then coming in and only doing half of the amount. So it does keep it truly proportional. Open this up to the council for debate or comment. I think Councilor Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do support the concept and the building of the Museum LA. Historically, when groups come in and they ask for such a big ticket, we don't always give them that much money going out the door. I have a hard time seeing us putting down and giving them 1.5 million. And it has nothing to do with them being in Lewiston or any of that. We were given a set dollar amount that we are to use for the betterment of the city and things. By giving them, I was fine with giving them maybe half that money, but not the whole thing, because there might be some issues in the city of Auburn that we need to address. And why sell our Auburn residents short by giving 1.5 to them?
Any other comment or motions to amend?
Just the comment that it's up to 1.5 million, so we're not committing that entire amount to them right now.
But respectfully, shouldn't they know right up front for planning purposes what their dollar amount is? And at least they'll know if they were getting half the pie, half a third of the pie, or whatever of the pie.
I think they have a pretty clear idea of all the funds that they need, and they're raising as much as they can, frankly, from different organizations and different municipal offices to be able to do this. We've seen their plan for this, it was pretty well detailed. They can't say that this up to 1.5 million will be used to put the bathrooms in. That's not where the plan is right now. It's part of a larger amount that they have, to me, pretty clearly spelled out to us.
Councilor Walker?
Yeah, I have a hard time too with the $1.5 million. And my reason is that we have been, got to use the right words here, I don't want to get into trouble again, but with our great little theater over here, for I don't know how long we've said, look, either they step up to the plate or we've got to do something about finding another place for them or doing something better. I would like to make a motion that we give $1 million to the LA and we hold $500,000 for the Great Falls Little Theater to help them. They have gone out, they have got themselves some money by finally working in the right direction, in my opinion. But
So I have a motion on the floor.
yeah,
Second it.
Hold on, if I could please just paraphrase. I have a motion on the floor to cut the contribution to Museum LA, to revise the amount from 1.5 million to $1 million.
that's
Am
right.
I correct? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second it.
Are you
Second.
including in that motion the allocation of the other 500,000 specifically to CLT?
I was,
That's what I
I would recommend that we
Yeah, have it be
separate that
separate.
into a separate order and look at that. I think there's still some discussions and talks that have to go on, though it was listed as a potential project within the ARPA subcommittee as well. But I'm not sure if we should,
That was, what is your motion?
I'm not sure if we should mix both appropriations under the same order.
Well, we don't have to mix it the same, but as long as the 500,000 that's left, that I can say that I wanted to go to.
If, Mr. Mayor, if he does not amend it with it now, you would have to suspend the rules to add that to an item on this meeting.
Yeah.
So if Councilor Walker just amends it with what his intent is, it would go through that way.
So if we amend it, you can also, after this, you can also suspend the rules to introduce a new order allocating 500 to Community Little Theater. So that way we can handle this in two separate orders. I think that's the appropriate, because it's an appropriation, this is technical.
If that's the best way, as long as we can do that.
So I have a motion to amend to $1 million a contribution to Museum LA. The rest of the language is still, again, 66% of the portion of Lewiston's contribution, not to exceed 1 million. Do I have and I have a second from Councilor Gary. Debate. Councilor Lasagna?
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify, Councilor Walker, I wasn't saying which one was the best way. I was just clarifying that if you did not include it in your amendment, then you would have to suspend the rules later to add that item. But you can add it to your amendment.
You can. I'd recommend against it.
Well, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter. I just want it to be that the 500,000 will go to the.
Okay, and we're in debate. So this is a total right now of, after these orders, let's say, all go through, we're looking at probably still remaining balance of close to $9 million within the ARPA funds that have yet to be allocated. So there is still money there. I will also state that I had communication with the president of Community Little Theater, Tim Fallon, just Friday, and they are not quite ready. So I think we need to really look at what their plans are, strategic plan. But I did share with him the fact that there's been many conversations about the theater and the importance of the theater. So I don't want to put it, I would recommend that council not put a firm dollar amount on anything. The intent is there until we hear from Community Little Theater. $10,790,000 would be left if all these appropriations went through. So their money is there, but I think a proper process in collaboration with the CLT will probably get us a better number. And that's, again, we have a motion on the floor for one thing. You can always, after this, we can always make another motion, or you can suspend rules. Or we can just wait a couple more weeks until we find, firm something out.
Respectfully, if we don't suspend the rules and add it to the agenda for this session and vote on it and hold their feet to the fire, it ain't gonna happen in the next council.
Well, I want to make the motion that we give the $1 million to LA Museum, 500,000 goes to the Little Theater.
Okay, I have a revised motion on the floor from Councilor Walker. You withdraw, I'm assuming you're withdrawing your initial motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second. Okay, I've got a new motion to amend this to a $1 million allocation to Museum LA and $500,000 to Community Little Theater. Debate. Councilor Zanya?
So I've had some discussions with Community Little Theater as well, and I totally support what it is they're doing, and I appreciate, Councilor Walker, that you are also advocating for them. They might want more than $500,000.
Yeah.
Or less. They're not ready to say, this is what we want. They're doing a lot of good thinking and communicating, knowing that there'll be $10 million approximately available in the next round, or whatever we call it. I would suggest that we don't make that determination now in terms of museum, CLT, but ask them to come back with a fully formed idea, which they're really in the heat of the process of doing that now, and request a specific amount. They won't lose out because it doesn't happen now, because there are funds that are available.
Any other debate or comments on this? 1 second. Is there any other? Councilor Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Respectfully, I've talked with a lot of them on the planning board of Community Little Theater, and if they could get the money sooner, then they would move forward faster, would at least start with the stuff that they desperately got to do for health hazards and for building safety.
Again, I think Councilor Boss will go with you.
I don't feel comfortable voting to allocate funds to an organization that we haven't heard a proposal from. I mean, 500,000 seems very arbitrary, and I would be happy to fund CLT, but I'd like to see a proposal first. And I'd like to also say that I think that this is an organization that has come forward with a very clear proposal and a clear ask, and I think 1.5 million is the right amount that we should be providing to them.
We've workshopped it.
Workshop future. Councilor Carey?
And I will agree with Councilor Boss. If CLT, and I don't diminish their standing in the community at all, but the Museum LA came for us with a specific plan and knew exactly what the allocation was. And I would rather them come forward with a plan of what they need and what they would like from us. And I think that we have adequate funds, unless they go beyond the 10 million, that we could provide them with it. Or let me rephrase that, the next council could provide that for them.
Very good. I've had debate, communication or conversation on this. I'd like to call a vote. By show of hands, all those in favor of amending the order as stated by Councilor Walker and seconded by Councilor Gary. All those in favor? Councilor, excuse me, can we have a roll call vote?
A roll call vote. Councilor Walker.
Yes.
Councilor Boss.
No.
Councilor Gary.
Yes.
Councilor Lasagna.
No.
Councilor McLeod.
No.
Councilor Mills.
No.
Councilor Carrier.
No.
By a vote of 5-2, the motion to amend fails.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to the order to include language that after not to exceed 1.5, and also no less than $500,000 of ARPA funds, so that we have an upper threshold and a lower threshold, so that if Lewiston provides no funding.
Okay, I've got a motion to amend. I got a motion to amend right now the order so that it is not to exceed 1.5 million, but not fall below $500,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Lasagna. Debate, discussion, bottom floor. I kick myself for not thinking of that.
So you're saying if Lewiston was to put nothing in, that we're still going to put in?
It's still our history, and we have an obligation to represent it by funding at Museum LA in some way.
I just want to make sure I understood.
Okay, got a note. I'm going to ask for a show of hand. All those in favor of the motion to amend, please raise your hand. All those against? It passes by a vote of 4-3. So now we have a motion, amended motion on the floor. Any other debate? Motions? Discussion? None? I will now ask for a vote on this by show of hands. All those in favor? All those, all those opposed? Passes by a vote of 5-2. Again, just so I can reiterate, if someone's trying to follow this at home, the amended motion is 66% of what Lewiston contributes, not to exceed $1.5 million, and not to fall below $500,000.
That was the amendment.
That was amended. Yep. Amended motion. Okay. Next on is authorizing the allocation of ARPA funds for premium pay for first responders, police and fire. is Order 134-1206-2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilor McLeod, second from Councilor Milks. Open this up to the public for comment. Anybody in the public would like to speak? No? We'll bring it back to the City Council. Council? Anybody? Comments? The new total, hold on, let me just pull this up, is $175,000 for base pay, as well as $25,000 in associated fringe benefits. Mr. Manager?
No,
Anything on
I
that?
was looking
No, you can't have it back. There you go. Stop passing notes in class. All those in favor show of
That was the total.
total 200, 175 for pay, 25,000 in associated fringe benefits. Total allocation $200,000. Any further debate? None being? All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next is Order 135-12062-021, authorizing the allocation of $50,000 of ARPA funds to conduct a study of the Tot Lot Revitalization Project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion for Council Boss, second for Council McLeod. Open this up to the public for comment. Any members of the public that would like to comment or speak, please so step to the podium. None being, bring it back to the council. Council, who introduced this, just so I can, Councilor Lasagna, did you introduce this to the agenda? Was this Councilor McLeod introduced? Okay, Councilor McLeod, courtesy.
Sure, I think this is the good allocation of ARPA money, and I think it's a good starting point to try to redesign what we have in Tot Lot and what it could be. The food forest is a fantastic idea, and being the largest in at least the Northeast, if not further, I think is a great thing that we can strive for, and it will certainly help give a place for people to recreate around Auburn. So I wanted to try to get that out there as soon as possible to get the money in their hands so we can start building that as soon as possible.
I guess my question is, what do you mean by study? It says 50,000 for study.
That's my question.
I'll defer to the manager.
So in the ARPA ad hoc committee, that was a number that was placed as the discussions began. If you recall, the rec committee came in and gave a presentation, which I believe was included in your packets. The rec committee is not in a position where they're ready to recommend an amount. I believe, Rita, they would be ready by, did the committee say when they would have that available? So they still have some time before they could move forward with that. This would allow for any work that they need to do as far as the study by, maybe it's going in and evaluating the soils, the property, taking a look at other projects that could potentially build on this. This would at least get them started to be able to do that. And, I'm not sure how far that could go with the full build out of a food forest or some type of botanical garden, but it would at least get them beginning and moving in that direction. The committee has been working, they've been working right along. And so I believe that they would want to take a look at what would make sense for them to start with, which could potentially mean that they would look at the facilities or so that people could come in and start using the facility more than what's being used now. That's about the most I can give you, council, based on the limited information we've received so far.
Just a quick question. If any other type of project, any project is going through an investigation period, as the manager, you have a set amount of funds in departments you can allocate for incidentals that happen when they arise under a certain amount, correct? And I think what I'm getting to is it understand about, they want to greenlight this, they want to continue to work, and they want to update us in the spring of 2022. I always worry about allocating blanket dollar amounts at this point until we have something a little bit more concrete, but understanding that it's a worthwhile project, it should move forward, at least in this due diligence phase.
As a council, you could go ahead and allocate that now. If by spring they have a different amount, or they would like to add to this, or maybe it's to not move forward, that would just go back to the council to reallocate, and that has to happen before 2024. So to what your question was earlier, which I think you were getting at, is no, the city doesn't have funding to just reallocate to a study like this, unless we were going to say no to something else, or if something else didn't take place. then we could reappropriate that, depending on the amount, depending on where it's coming from. If it's coming out of certain funding, it would have to go back to the city council for
I have a
consideration.
I'd like a point of clarification if I could. The money is going to the study to determine what to do with tot lot? Or to,
To help assess it.
is that,
To help assess, to make sure that the project continues to move forward.
which project?
What we can do with tot lot. The food forest in particular, and the botanical garden that was brought forward from the rec committee.
So there are specific ideas in place, and this money is going to go to allocate to those specific ideas that have already, I just want to make sure that this isn't just a hypothetical.
You might not have been at that workshop,
think-
actually.
Yeah,
Now that I'm
I
hearing
wasn't
it.
here.
Yeah.
I
okay.
apologize.
This was the workshop.
So what I'd like to,
Yes.
what I'd like to do is amend this to add that any money not used for the study allocated to the implementation of the findings, so that if they can do it quicker and not spend the 50 grand on a study, which I'd prefer them not do, let's put that money towards what they want to do.
I think
and the
the-
implementation. Is that,
if I may, just for a point
my
of clarification.
concern is a $50,000 study nowhere.
I'd like to, right, and let me give the council, maybe Councilor Mills, you're in the mood to make a motion at this point. You could do one of two things. You can make a motion to amend the order so as not to exceed $50,000 for a study with the remaining balance applied to implementation. That's one option. The second option is to table this to a date certain, which I would put, based upon them, May 1st of 2022, which then puts this money on in kind of a stasis, a hold pattern within the ARPA account, because it's pending to a date certain. It will give them time to allocate, research. Now, if Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee comes back in January and says, listen, we're ready, can we escalate this? Then we can just bring this up at a very quick meeting and do that. So, I mean, I understand the idea of keeping the money aside without weighing in on the benefits or the merits of any program. This would be a placeholder amendment.
I'm in favor of allocating the money to that thing. I missed and I apologize.
Oh, I like
realized
the
that I
motion
didn't have
you're about
that.
to make, though.
Yeah, make it.
Make the motion you're about to make.
I make a motion that we allocate this 50,000 to the study, and any money not used in that 50,000 for the study is used to implement the program decided by the committee.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor to amend that order that says that the City of Auburn, that the City of Auburn Council allocate 50,000 American Rescue Plan Act funds to conduct the study for the tot lot revitalization plan.
Right.
And additional money be used for implementation.
Remaining.
And any remaining money
remaining
not
money.
used in the study, used to implement.
Sue? I got a motion to amend the order from Councilor Milk, seconded by Councilor McLeod. Open this up. Mr. Manager
I
first.
just want to make sure clarification in here, your amendment authorizes the committee to spend those dollars prior to the plan coming back to the city council. If the city council's fine with that, that's fine, but you're eliminating you taking a look at any plan that might come forward based off from the committee. I would recommend that comes back to the council for final approval.
Yeah, I agree. That was the question that I was wanting to ask about having a date by which we need.
So,
Study.
at this point, we have a motion to amend. It's been seconded. I'm going to ask for a quick vote, up or down on this. All those in favor of amending the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay, the motion to amend fails. Now, I'd like to have another motion to amend. Come on, you're on the roll. You almost got it there.
Motion, so, a motion to amend to allocate the 50,000 to a study. Any money not used for the study will be allocated towards the implementation of the study to be approved, the final proposal to be approved by the city council no later than.
Just approval based upon, per approval of city council. Okay, good. I got a motion to amend. Second by Councilor McLeod. Debate? None? All those in favor of the motion to amend? Passes 7-0. Okay, we have an amended order on the floor, allocating $50,000 for the study of the tot lot to turn into a garden of sorts, and execution of the plan based upon approval by city council. Any more debate?
You
None.
should call it a garden to rival the, what it's called, the botanical garden up on the coast. Use your good language now.
Spell it.
A fancy garden.
I'm exhausted.
A big fancy
My good
garden.
language ran out 40 minutes ago. But no, I remember when this happened, and I think, frankly, a couple of us, me included, said, yeah, how about that botanical garden thing? So I guess you got to be careful what you wish for.
And I also hope that the idea of this food forest moves forward in their planning. I know we don't want to put that in the amendment, but in the order. But
It's a very, very unique and interesting, and quite frankly, it could be, if done correctly, an amazing asset for the entire state of Maine.
There we go.
So,
Yeah.
all those in favor? Opposed? Counselor Walker, were you in favor or opposed?
In favor.
In favor.
Council
I'm in
Mills.
favor.
Oh,
I'm
you're in
sorry,
favor.
I raised my hand late.
Passes 7-0. Next is Order 136-1206-2021, authorizing the allocation of $150,000 of ARPA funds to conduct a water quality initiative of the Lake Grove Municipal Beach.
Second,
McLeod, and second from Councilor Boss. Okay.
lasagna.
Lasagna. It wouldn't be the last meeting without a mistake. I'll open this up to the public for comment. None being. Bring it back to the council. Council, note that this is a forward-thinking, non-study, but action implementing. I think everybody's goal in passing this,
It's about time.
it's about time, and
This
the
is
goal.
not a study, correct?
The goal is to get this open for
is
public.
implementation.
Implementation, public
Action.
use by next season. Okay, that should be, and
Yeah.
if it's not, based upon this, if that's not our intent to get this ready and launched by spring, summer, okay? The vote no. So, Mr. Manager, have anything to add?
Staff will do their best.
Okay.
If not, we will swim in their home pools. Okay, I swam in that back in the 80s and 90s. Councilor Walker did too. Look, we turned out fine. All those in favor? Opposed? Let's go swimming. Passes 7-0.
Yeah.
Next, Order 137-1206-2021, approving the allocation of Auburn's portion in the ARPA funds to install a backbone dark fiber network. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Boss on the second. Motion made by Councilor McLeod. Open this up to public comment. Anybody in the public like to speak? None being, and bring this back. This is for dark fiber, not the dark web. Okay, we had this before. Everybody's clear. All those in favor? 7-0, unanimous. Next, approving Order 138-1206-2021, approving the collective bargaining agreement for police patrol detectives. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Carrier, Councilor Boss on the second. Public comment? None being, bringing this back to the council. Council debate? None being, asked for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry. I am in favor of it.
Passes 7-0.
We're slow on this end.
Next is Order 139-1206-2021, approving the collective bargaining agreement for the police command unit. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Councilor Carrier, second from Councilor Boss. Open this up to the public for comment. None being, bring it back to the council. Council debate.
No debate, but I'd like to thank Assistant City Manager Brian Wood for all of his work on this. It was not easy, but he finessed it, and I really appreciate it.
Ask for a vote. All those in favor? Unanimous, 7-0. Next, Order 140-1206-2021, approving the $1,500 budget request for the Agricultural Committee to cover operating and incidental committee costs. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Boss, second from Councilor McLeod. Anybody from the public like to comment? None being, I bring it back to the council. Council? Sorry?
Did you skip one of the police things? Did you get them both?
No, got them both.
I'd like to speak on this one.
Okay,
Oh, sorry.
hold on. Am I good? I didn't skip anything, correct?
I think I got them both. Yep, I have them both.
Okay, good. Thank you for bringing that up, just in case it's one group you don't want to actually. But Councilor Boss, you're up. You're up on the,
Sure, thank you.
1206-2021.
So the Ag Committee in this past year has hosted a number at the Auburn Farm Tour event where signs were purchased using personal funds by committee members. We also made a really lovely display on the Riverwalk placards, also created, printed, and designed using funds out of the pockets of committee members. Done, fully with the passion of the work that we're doing. But it would be great to have a little bit of a slush fund for more education, more outreach, and more similar events like this. We think it's a really reasonable request, and hope you'll consider.
Any other comment?
Question. So you're talking about covering operating costs for, help me out.
Materials.
Materials and stuff.
Supplies, exactly.
Could you do that through the office that we have for
Communications. Our
communications
department
and,
was out.
I want to say outreach. The other word I'm looking for is escaping me right now.
Our communications department with regards to, outreach, social, that's what they do for the city.
I think there are certainly some things that could absolutely be done in partnership with the communications department. There were certain things that were done for the farm tour where there were printed lawn signs to direct people that were directional, large, polystyrene signs that communications office couldn't. My assumption is that they couldn't prepare those. And I'd welcome Kathy Shaw, who's the Ag Committee Chair, to also present other expensive
I think
ideas.
from a point of, if I could, just giving you background on all of our committees, and it's interesting ask, and I think the Ag Committee might be slightly different than some of our other committees with regards to marketing communication. I will reference back, and I'm sorry I don't have the date, that we do have an order that this council passed directing all communications outreach to go through the communications department within the city and be approved. That could be anything from a logo to a sign to anything. So I want everybody to understand, is there a conflict? Is there not a conflict? That's one. Second, the unusualness about this is that no, this is not in our budget cycle. This is coming outside of our budget cycle. Normally, appropriations, budgeted items would go to the city manager for inclusion in the budget cycle. They'd be debated and then voted on by July 1st. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that if this does go through, this setting a precedence, that it's outside of the normal budgetary process. But Councilor Milks or Councilor Carey, you could finish, and then Councilor Milks.
Well, and Brian just gave me the word. Marketing was the word that I was looking for, and it escapes me. So marketing and communications is what I was trying to say. So.
While I support and understand the point, and I would actually be in favor if these committee members had a very functional reason for doing signs on something like that they could present some sort of an expense report that to the city that could be repaid to them. But I agree that sort of the precedent of establishing a slush fund is kind of outside the purview. But I would certainly, if citizens that were volunteering had expenses that came out of pocket, I would think those were things that they could bring to the city to get reimbursed for. That's how I would like to.
Yeah, and I think that a reimbursement process would be fine, and also I think that this should apply not just to the Agriculture Committee, but we have a lot of other committees that have an obligation to do education and outreach on whatever topic area they have, and they have absolutely no support either. So I think it's a high bar.
Maybe we can have some sort of a guideline on what, if you do these kind of expenses, you're on your own, and if these kind of expenses could be approved, and sometimes it's not possible ahead of time, but if any time there. So I prefer than voting for this slush fund that we did it more of a policy of reimbursing citizens that are volunteering and spend money of their own, that we reimburse them for that.
So, just for clarification, even if you voted for this, the city wouldn't go and cut a check to a committee for $1,500. It would all be reimbursable. It would have to follow our purchasing policy as set. What I would recommend, this might be helpful for the council, is if you amend this to direct the city manager to allow for the spending of up to $1,500 out of our communications and outreach budget, we could do that.
Okay. So I think you have a couple options here. I will say that if you're gonna set a precedence, you set a precedence for everyone, and you say that you have a $1,500 budget, because remember, I remember when I first became mayor, the entire city's marketing budget came from the returning of recyclables at the Parks and Rec and Savings Bank arenas. That was the entire marketing budget, which equated to like $400 a year. Remember that, okay? We have made tremendous strides, but there's no one that's ever had a discretionary fund. I would say to start this off, allowing that you would make a motion to amend, allowing the city manager to disperse up to $1,500 in allocation from the communications budget to any citizen that's participating within a committee, okay, in a City of Auburn approved committee, up until July 1. Then we can start looking at what these truly are. One of the goals that we have in the next council is to have better communication with these committees to help them put together a budget if need be. So,
Mr. Mayor, before someone makes that motion, you have over 30 some odd committees in the city of Auburn. We do not have those funds to allocate up to $1,500
no.
per
Total.
committee.
No, total, I meant. 1,500 total, all committees. Not individually, cumulatively.
I think that it would be helpful if the council, the incoming council, had a conversation about that during the budget process, to decide how you would like to proceed with that, and maybe actually reach out to a committee, something we've never done, until the Conservation Commission recently asked for money for a fee to be,
Members.
membership, thank you, membership into an organization. We have never gone to a committee and said, what would what's your budget? And so if that is the intent, we'll do that. I'd rather not try to open up you're saying $1,500 for all committees. That could be 30 some odd committees that are now trying to draw off from $1,500, which puts, city manager in a position where the city manager now needs to decide who's getting it in first, how much are they asking for
We like
reimbursement.
to start the motorcycle.
I think that the request came in through the Ag Committee. I think you could, what I had mentioned earlier, you could easily go ahead and do that. In the next 6 months, they might not even spend half of that, but at least it's available to them if they have an event that comes up that would come out of that line item that I mentioned.
With that said, again, I think this is, again, as a kind of form of compromise, at $1,500 cumulatively would be a nightmare. That's why you bring these things up. I will state from the charter, just if I could quote the charter, and this is under section 3.3, powers and duties, and this is something that needs to be exercised more. The mayor shall coordinate the actions of such boards, committees, and commissions as they may exist to promote the effective administration of the city's interests, period. Utilizing that, I think, to the manager's point, I would recommend a do not pass on this initial budget with the knowledge that I will work with the committee chairs in the new year and with the new council to get an appropriate budget based upon actual expenditures versus an overarching total. It's a little bit more, that's how we do all of our budgets. That's my recommendation is officially recommendation on that one. Open this up for further comment.
So I think it's important to put this in part of in the budget process, just so that everybody knows and that each of the committees has a chance to understand what is going on. I think if the mayor is planning to do a process, that it should be very transparent of who can make requests and how you go through this, so that when it gets before the budget committee for approval, for the budget for approval, everybody knows that they've had input and able to have conversation and make requests.
Yeah, I think that's doable. I mean, again, there's 33 committees, a lot less of them with regards to direct city committees that would require these funding, i.e. 911 or LATC, they would not. So it gets that number down to a more manageable. Any other?
I had a quick question, Mr. Manager. If in this particular situation there was a citizen that expended an amount of money for an event that you guys did, is there a way that they could submit an expense report for it? Or is there any policy?
Not unless it was
like that?
pre-approved.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask for a vote at this time. All those in favor of the order allocating $1,500 to the Agricultural Committee, please raise your hand. All those.
Is it too late to make an amendment?
It's your last meeting, Councilor Ballas.
Thank
It's never too
you.
late.
I'd like to amend the order to approve $200 to be allocated to the Agriculture Committee to cover the cost of events that have already taken place this year.
One time?
Then one time, with the knowledge that a process will be created going forward.
We have a motion to amend the dollar amount from $1,500 to $200 effective immediately.
One time.
Yep, one time $200 payment effective immediately. All those in favor of the motion to amend, or excuse me, second?
I'll second it.
Second from Councilor Gary. All those in favor of the motion to amend? Okay. Motion passes 7-0. All those in, now we have an amended a motion, $200. All those in favor of the order, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously.
Thank you. I think that's a great way forward and really supports committees in a tangible way and should be done equitably.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, yeah, agreed. It should be. And that's something I think we talked about in our committee for committees too a little bit, but we didn't get too deep. So it's relevant. Resolve. Next, 04-12062021, supporting the climate plan action goal. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Oop.
Councilor McLeod, second from? Okay, Councilor Lasagna. Open this up to the public for comment. Any comment from the public at this time? None being, bring it back to the council. Council, comment? The resolution closely mirrors the current action plan put forth by Governor Mills last year. Looking at it a little bit more in depth with the city manager, we are, again, well ahead of, I'd say, our peers throughout the state on this and meeting some of these goals, everything from hydropower in Minot to, which we're going to get some more communication on in the upcoming meetings, to our Sustainable Auburn program, encouraging heat exchange pumps for residences. So it's a good program, and I do think this would align us with Governor Mills' goal, as well as the corresponding ARPA funds that are available to help implement these strategies. Any other comment, debate?
I just want to, sorry, go ahead.
Councilor Gary?
Well, I'll let him go first.
I just wanted to echo what the mayor was saying, is that we're already, steps ahead on a lot of this stuff with solar purchasing, our hydropower, and we didn't really have a document to fall back on to have a cohesive push in that direction to continue that. So that's why I think it's important to kind of get out there so we have a document that aligns us with the Maine Climate Council and the carbon neutrality report.
Councilor Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not positive, but I think the last now, where it says Auburn, it needs to have one of those little things above the S, so it makes it Auburn's elected officials, or do you really want it to be Auburn elected officials?
I think we can make that the clerical change to add an apostrophe.
And then the other thing is, I'm very supportive of the environment. And I support probably 95% of all the things that our good governor has, or the committee has proposed. I do have fears about the carbon footprint, because I'm afraid that this may come down to limit our farms and on what how many eventually, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but very close, to limit our farms on how many animals that they can have because of their not so good carbon footprint that they leave, or the fact that our farmers need to grow crops and things, and I'm just afraid of limiting them in what they need to do in order to produce the food and things that we need.
Any other comment? Not being, I'm going to ask for a vote. All those in favor of the resolve, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Passes 5-1 with Councilor Walker abstaining. Last open session of the night. Any member of the public can speak about any bit of business of the government that is not on tonight's agenda. Please come up to the podium, state your name, and unless you're from the library, state your name, address of the library, and limit your comments to 30 minutes.
30 minutes, that's great. I'm Mamie Anthony, I'm the director of the Auburn Public Library, and I'm here to comment on what is missing from the agenda tonight, and that was the allocation for repairs to Library Avenue from the ARPA funds. The road is just getting worse. We get complaints about it constantly, and I'd really like to see something done since we've been put off so many times before. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamie. And there is a lot of talk on that, so I think we're going to work through a good solution relatively quickly. Anybody else in the public like to speak?
Good evening, Tim Cowan, I'm District 2, and I'm the president of Community Little Theater. I wanted to just acknowledge and thank the supportive comments here tonight, and echo that I have spoken with Mayor Levesque, and we are moving forward, and we'll look forward to being able to present a plan to the new council in the coming year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? And none being on, not closed public comment. We're going to move on to reports. Start with my report. A lot of things happen, and we are moving forward, I think, towards the holiday season, as can be seen with our great Christmas tree lighting. Wonderful, wonderful activity. Started a new Auburn. Everything went off without a hitch. A special thanks out to Public Works, APD, AFD, Parks and Recreation Committee, and volunteers. It was a great event. Councilor Walker, New Auburn, along with Kenny, and then all the way to Festival Plaza. Phenomenal, well done. About 1,000 people in total were there. And that was really nice. Second announcement, City of Lewiston has invited us to their inauguration on behalf of Mayor Carl Schleen, members of the City Council and School Committee, which will be held January 3rd, 2022, 6:30 in the evening. Oh. Doesn't tell you where.
Everywhere.
No, seriously, it doesn't tell you where.
We'll make
Visit the
sure it's
Lewiston website. Yeah, it doesn't actually say where. I might double check on that.
They don't really want us to show up. We're having a party, but we're not telling you where it's at.
I'm skeptical on the date now, okay? That's what I say there. So, last thing, we do have our inauguration December 13th, next Monday at the Auburn Senior Community Center. It starts at 6 p.m. I would encourage everybody to go, outgoing counselors, obviously current counselors, you kind of have to be, members of the public, please show up, go online, you can see it on our website, please RSVP, because we only have room for about 150 to 175 people at the senior center. It's always a great activity, and I encourage everyone to be there. That's it for my reports. Nothing else. I'll start off over here on my right. I'm going to give some time to Councilor Carrier. Reports?
I have nothing to report from our committees. Just wanted to say, though, from my standpoint, it's been a great pleasure to work with you all. I think that we got a lot accomplished, and to anybody out there that's looking, get involved. It's good working with a group of people that care about the city, and I have appreciated you all.
Councilor Boss?
Oh, man. How can you follow that up? I want to echo the same sentiment. This has been an unforgettable 2 years. 3, including planning board. I wouldn't take back a single minute of it. And thank you all for all the work that we've done and all the collaboration that we've had. And again, people get involved. This is good stuff. You want to be here.
Councilor Zania?
4 years. Sometimes it seems like a lot longer, and sometimes it seems like a lot shorter. I was glad to be able to be a part of this group, and particularly working with a stellar city staff to see this city in very good form through some difficult times. I think that Auburn did a really good job in terms of the pandemic while continuing to move forward and make plans. So I'm very proud of the work that we've done and that I did on this council.
Councilor McLeod?
I have an LATC meeting on the 9th.
Can I have a motion to excuse?
No, he needs to be there. We need a quorum.
Other than that, I echo what the other counselors have said. It's been a really fun 2 years, and it's been an exciting experience and a lot of learning, so it was very fun.
Is there any other reports?
Yeah, the Water and Sewer Department have their joint meeting next Wednesday to approve the budgets. Further, to read any public comment, anything like that, that's when they can do it.
Awesome.
5 o'clock.
Great. That's it. That's it for reports. I will say to the outgoing counselor, something I didn't say earlier, it has been a pleasure. Through thick, through thin, through heated debate, conversation, compromise, lack of compromise, discussions, phone calls, constant text barrages. It's always a learning experience for all of us. So thank you very much. I will now ask for a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry, we got the manager.
So close.
And the manager.
No pressure.
I thought Tim was supposed to watch.
Councilman McLeod has a time here, I gotta go beyond it, or else he's gonna win the bet here. Just really quickly, Mayor, you mentioned about the Christmas tree lighting and the work that was done there. I just wanna make sure that everyone knows, a lot of people that are not aware, the Auburn Business Association is a big part of what takes place. They raise funds for the new Christmas decorations that you see. A lot of those Christmas decorations comes from the Auburn Business Association. So just so people are aware that they are a great advocate, and they're out there getting things done and making the city better. The other update that I wanted to provide you was the Sustainable Auburn program. As of December 2nd, we've had 24 applications. This is the matching dollars under the energy efficiency. 18 have been processed at $13,900. 6 are waiting approval for $3,150, which is pending. The staff estimates that in the next 15 months, we believe that $250,000 that you were allocated, going at the rate that we're at right now, will be expended in 15 months. Per household, the rebate is about $710.42.
That's great. That's great. That's helping a lot of people. Awesome. Thank you very much for that update. At this point now, I would.
Motion to adjourn.
Get a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second from
Second.
the outdoors? Second, Councilor Boss. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're now adjourned.
Why didn't you say no?